All right, it's my pleasure now to welcome on former Victorian Bushranger, Tasmanian Tiger, and Hobart Hurricanes left arm off spinner Clive Rose. Clive, how are you today, mate?
Good, thanks, Chris. How you going?
I'm doing wonderful, mate. We'll get into sort of your upbringing. Your dad was born in Lahore, Pakistan. So, I guess what was the sort of impact he had on you and your cricket early days?
Yeah, look, my old man, I've only been back to Pakistan like once, and that was on an under-19 tour for about a week and a half. We were away, we were there. My dad moved over in the early '80s, and he didn't play cricket, didn't play much cricket in Pakistan. He played a lot of soccer. And then when he came to Australia, he played a little bit of soccer, but wasn't getting much of a go at the team he was playing for. And then one of the mates he was working with was playing cricket, so took him down to the cricket club, I think, the local cricket club. And then, he played there for years until I was born. And he's the main reason why I play cricket. I used to go down there with mum when I was really young, watch him play. And then when I was old enough to go with him, I'd be in the nets with my whites when I was 5 or 6 years old. And when the boys were batting, his teammates would take turns and throwing me balls the whole day in the nets. So he's certainly the reason why I started playing the game.
Mm. And what was it like, I guess, seeing, obviously I think it was 22 years between tests where Australia had been to Pakistan. Obviously a lot of stuff had happened but between that. But I mean, as someone with Pakistani heritage, what was it like seeing that? Ultimately, the tests weren't really enjoyable, but it was just great to see, cricket back there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's good. Like it's the Pakistani people love cricket. It's one of their main sports over there, and I think it's good for the players as well. The players having to play away from home all the time is tough, and not being able to play a home test match. I know. I was lucky enough to play with Alex Doolan, who you played a few 4 or 5 test matches for Australia, and I think how he spoke about how all he wanted to do was play a test match at home. And I'm sure there's a lot of Pakistani players that never got the chance to play home test matches because of what's been going on there, and it's really nice to see them get the opportunity to play at home now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's get into your sort of introduction to the game. So you played your juniors at Oakley. What was sort of you sort of already touched on your early experiences, but what was it like, I guess, getting into organised cricket for you?
I love the game ever since I could walk, really. So Dad would take me down to watch the juniors play when I was really young, and I'd watch some of these older guys play, and all I wanted to do was play for the Cavaliers and the juniors. And I played my first game when I was probably 7 years old, 6 or 7, I reckon, in the under-12s. And it was mainly a Sri Lankan club, basically. And Dad, ever since I started playing the juniors, Dad sort of ran the junior program there, and it was really strong. Lots of junior kids coming through. The team I played for was, I think we played in the grand final every year since I was 7 years old till I was 18, and lost only 2 grand finals. So we were really lucky that we had some really good cricketers that played in those junior teams. And then when I stopped playing junior cricket at that club, unfortunately Dad sort of stopped playing as well and wanted to watch me play Premier cricket, and the junior sort of setup sort of fell away. But it was a really strong, rich junior club full of Sri Lankans and Indians and Pakistanis mainly, in the Oakley region, and it was just a really good place to be. And they really they love their cricket over there, so yeah, it was really good.
Is this the club where you may or may not have dropped a catch on the hat-trick ball, and someone went on to make a large amount of runs?
Yeah. It was. I remember that day. It was. We played at the Westall secondary school, and it was a really small ground. It was probably my 4th or 5th senior game. I was 16, 17 years old, but on spin for only my 3rd or 4th game. And we were going really well. We had our opening bowler was our captain, and had taken 2 wickets, and I was at mid wicket, and he just told me to come in a little bit closer, and he bowled a knee high fully that came off the stickers of the bat and sort of lobbed to me, and I got a bit scared because I thought it was coming a bit fast, and it did, and dropped it. And then the guy went on to just hit bombs we dropped them about 10 times after that anyway, but I think ended up getting 200 plus runs not in very, very quickly.
Yeah. Has that opening bowler got a hat trick since, or is he still, is it a
I'm
bit elusive?
I'm not too sure. From talking to some players that used to play down there, they reckon that he never got one, and yeah, so it makes me feel a bit worse about it.
Yeah. Important to bring up. Sorry, I had to do it. But at what age did you join South Melbourne?
I reckon I was about 16 or 17 years old. I reckon when I went down there, I was 16, I think. It was straight after the under 15s. I played the under 15 state stuff with Victoria, and a couple of the boys that played were playing at South Melbourne. And sort of, I tried for Dandenong and South Melbourne. And when I played the 15 state stuff, straight after that, I got a call from one of the coaches there, and said that they wanted me to have a session with Ray Bright. They've organised it, and Ray Bright was a left arm spinner as well. So
Yeah.
South Melbourne actually, they really invested in me. So that's the reason why I went down there straight after that.
Yeah. I think one of the most amazing things about your story is that you had just started bowling spin. Is that correct? Like, you had not been bowling spin for long at all.
No, it would have been 12 months, 13, 12, less, probably, yeah, probably since I was 15. I reckon I started bowling spin, and I was lucky enough I batted a little bit. I was more of a batter, bowled slow, medium pace. And then I played senior cricket at my club, and Dad was like, oh, they need a spinner. Clive can bowl some left arm spin. He's been practicing the nets. And I bowled, and I think I took 6 wickets in my first game for about 80 runs off 9 overs. So
That helps.
Yeah,
Wickets help. The run's not that important.
yeah. So I got whacked, but I got a few wickets, and then I just like, well, this is pretty easy. I could just roll my arm over and take wickets. So I started doing it then, but I was still a batter at that stage.
Yeah. So you literally started bowling spin, and in 12 months, you've started playing at a Premier Cricket club, and you've represented Victoria. I bowled spin for like 8 years, and I think I got 13 wickets.
Yeah.
So I think it's astonishing that you actually managed to just pick it up that quickly. Do you think the fact that you were a batsman first sort of really helped you, I guess, adjust to the increase in competition?
I think the way I bowled pace was probably pretty similar to my spin, to be fair, and probably similar pace. So like I rolled my fingers on a few balls when I bowled. I bowled a few slower balls, so it was easy for me to transition into left arm spin. And then I had a relatively good arm ball. And in junior cricket, if you got a good arm ball, I bowled it once every 3 balls and took a wicket every most of the time I bowled it. In junior cricket. So that eased my, I guess, my transition into spin. But I always saw myself as a batter. And I was batting really low. I was batting at 8 when I got picked in these teams. So I was determined to try to, force my way up the ladder, up the batting order, I guess.
Yeah. You played in the under-19s World Cup for Australia with, just a couple of names in that team: Steve Smith, Josh Hazlewood, both pretty decent cricketers. What was that like? I guess from, it's one thing to represent your state, but now to sort of be acknowledged as, hey, you're one of the best, one of the best kids at this age in Australia, and we want you to go play in a World Cup against. I'm guessing, I didn't look to see who you played against, but there would have been some big names playing in that sort of World Cup.
Yeah, I think like, to drop some names, I think we didn't play against India, but Kohli was captain of the Indian team.
That works.
Kane Williams, from New Zealand.
Williamson, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Joe Root was England. We played against them. So there was some, like, I've got a booklet that I own that every now and then I'd see a new name come in international cricket, and I'd tick off a name. Yeah, and most of the countries that played in that World Cup have about 6 or 7 players that ended up going on to play international cricket, which was awesome. So it was probably the first time that I actually, when I got picked for that unknown World Cup, it was the first time that I actually realised, I was like, oh shit, I can actually potentially make this a career. I can play at the highest level. I can play for Victoria. Like I never even thought about playing for Australia. It was always, I wanted to play for Victoria. I wanted to play on the MCG. And all I wanted to do was just play one day game at the MCG for Victoria, and that would have been I would have been happy with my career, to be honest.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, who got the ball first? Steve Smith obviously was at that point in his career viewed as a spinner first, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So did you get the ball first, or was it thrown to him to bowl his little leggies?
So I think I actually went over there as the third spinner. So it was Steve Smith and Daniel Burns was a left arm spinner from New South Wales. And then as the games went on, the wickets over there in Malaysia suited the way I bowled, which was a little bit faster. And I ended up being the number one spinner by the end of it. But Steve Smith was certainly the number one spinner. He played Shield cricket already as a leggy and a batter. And Daniel Burns was, I think he might have been on rookie contract with New South Wales at the time. And they were all a little bit older. I was always a year younger than them. Yeah, I think as just the wickets just suited the way I bowled, which was nice, like really fast into the wicket. And I ended up being the number one spinner at that stage at the end of the tournament.
Yeah, I know it's throwing back a fair way now, but could you sort of tell by looking at, guys like Josh Hazlewood and Steve Smith, and I think Marcus Stoinis was in the team as well, like you could just sort of see that these guys were, I guess, a cut above everyone else?
So, I remember saying to, I think I can't remember who I was talking to, but I was talking about Josh Hazlewood, and I was 1 year younger, so I was 18. So I had 2 years of under-19s left, and Josh Hazlewood had 3 years of under-19s left, and he was playing.
Oh, wow.
And so he played 2 World Cups, and like I remember saying, I was like, this guy, he looks like he bowls just like Glenn McGrath, similar action, does not miss a length. He's going to play for Australia. He's going to play for Australia as long as he doesn't get injured and he's fine. And I remember talking to someone, and he was the one to stand out. That was like Phil Hughes played as well, and he was another one that was already playing first class cricket and doing pretty well. So we sort of knew he was going to play for Australia one day. But Josh Hazlewood was one that just straight away, it was like, he was 17. He was big, he was strong, bowled like Glenn McGrath, didn't miss a length. He was the one that everyone was like,
He wouldn't have been that much. He wouldn't have been that much fun to face in the net sessions, I can't imagine.
No, I was lucky. Because I was there as a bowler. I didn't get to bat in the nets that much, which was great. So I just bowled my overs and got a few throwdowns.
Yeah, you bring out that, like, you want to bat. You're like, I'll be honest, mate. I left my kit back in Australia. I had no interest. I had no interest in this.
Spikes.
That's amazing. Let's talk about the Bushrangers. So in 2013, you made your debut for the Bushrangers. You said just earlier that you just wanted to play one dayer. And, that would have been a career. You'd be happy with that. But you ended up playing Sheffield Shield. What was that sort of like? And do you remember getting the call to find out that you were going to play?
Yeah, it was a little bit weird because it all happened really quickly. John Holland was obviously the Victorian spinner at the time, left arm spinner. And 2 weeks before that, they played against South Australia, and he took 6 wickets in Adelaide against them in a one-day game. And then the next week, I think he hurt his shoulder and got injured. And then the last game of the season was coming, obviously. And I didn't even think anything of it, to be fair. But obviously, they couldn't make the final. So I think they played a few young guys. Dan Salpietro was the other spinner that was playing, but he'd already played a couple of games. So they I basically took a punt on me just to see what I've got. I'd been bowling well in grade cricket at the time and had a pretty good season. So when I got the call up, they just told me I was in the 12, and I got to the ground and sat down, put my bag down, thinking, how good is it to have a shirt, with my name on it, basically, not thinking I'm going to play. And then literally when I got there, as soon as I sat down, Simon Helmet, the coach, came to me and was like, you're in the 11, you're playing, you're in, you're going to bat, 9 or 10 or whatever it is. So good luck. You're probably going to open the bowling too. So I was like, yep, perfect. And so I didn't really have much time. To process it. I was just so excited I'm going to be able to walk on the MCG and play a game of cricket now. So it's just awesome.
Do you remember the first person you bowled to?
It all happened really quickly. I remember going to the top of my mark and was like, the wicket just went and looked twice as long as it normally does. and I just
Yeah.
like went and ran in and bowled the first ball. I can't remember who I bowled the first
Yeah.
ball to. I do remember walking out on the field. I looked like I was looking down at my spikes and looked up, and this big shirt with white on the back of it. Cameron White's name there. And I was just like, this is amazing. I'm walking out the field with, Cameron White and a few other guys that were there that had played for Australia. And I was like, I never thought I'd be able to do this. This was like a proper dream come true with the first game.
Yeah. Talk about your sort of mindset around the fact that you were like, you're kind of in a way happy to be there, but I guess for a professional athlete, being that you have to kind of like push that aside, if you want to stay, to rather than go, I'm happy to be here, to, I guess I belong here. How do you sort of change your mind to get out of that mindset into the other one?
It's funny you say that, because I reckon like in one day cricket when I played for Tassie or whatever, I had the mindset. I first started and played, and felt like I went okay and felt like I belonged in the team, and I felt like I was good enough to play one day cricket. And then that sort of feeling of how good is it I'm here, it sort of goes away, and it's about, geez, how do I win the game for the team? But in Big Bash cricket, I don't know why, but I just never felt that I belonged in the team. Every time I bowled, maybe because of the pressure and all the, and everything that goes on outside of the game, but I never felt like I was in the team and I was always in the team. I felt like every time I walked down that field, it's going to be my last game. So I put so much pressure on myself to do well. And so as soon as I got hit for a boundary or I didn't have a good game, I'd almost doubt myself that I'm not good. Am I good enough to play? I might not be good enough. I've got to be better. I've got to work harder. When really it was just like, some days you just have, you bowl the same and you get hit for 3 sixes in a row, and other days you take 3 wickets in a row bowling the same ball. So I couldn't wrap my head around that in Big Bash cricket, but in one day cricket, I always felt like I had the skills to do well in the white ball, along in 50-yard cricket.
Do you think that's funny though? Because for the most part, Big Bash is sort of how most Australian cricket fans would know you. You had stints with the Melbourne Stars and the Hobart Hurricanes, and it wasn't just you probably played more Big Bash cricket than you did Sheffield Shield and one day cricket combined. Do you think that's not funny that you kind of felt like, I guess, out of place in the spot where you got your most success?
Yeah, it is. It's probably, and it had nothing to do with anyone but my own, I guess, insecurities about me and my ability, I guess. And I was so, as a coach now, I think of the game differently, and I wish I thought about the game the way I think about it now when I played. But I was so end result focused, and when I bowled and had a good game, I rode the high. I was really happy about it, and then when I had a bad game, I rode the low as well, and I was depressed about it, I guess. And I was like, Jesus, am I going to play next game? The coach doesn't rate me, or my teammates don't think I'm any good, all that sort of stuff. When really that was all my internal monologue. That was just like, I guess putting myself down, when really that no one thought that at all, potentially at that stage. It was just that, geez, a bad game, but that's right. Clive will be right next game. But it was always, and it probably affected everything. It affected the way I played the next game, but my mental state throughout before the next game as well. I worked bloody hard. I trained my butt off bowling, just to make sure I was right for the next game. And sometimes it did make me more nervous. Sometimes it did make me better, but I think most of the time it made me nervous before going out and bowling that first ball.
Yeah. Do you think for a part of that is when you think of, I guess, Ryobi Cup or whatever it's called, it had like 19 different names. You don't have those, I guess, those import players and those sort of stars that the Big Bash sort of has had, during your time in there. Like I remember watching like AB de Villiers, playing in the Big Bash. I remember watching Flintoff, Jax Callis, like all these guys, Shane Warne. Like, do you think for a large part that probably played a little bit to doing it? The fact that you're sitting in a locker room and you're like, holy shit, that's that's like Michael Clark right there, or someone else who you just never dreamed of, I guess, playing cricket with?
Not so much. I think, like, reflecting back on it now, I think it was more the fact that, in T20 cricket, I knew as a player and now as a coach as well that, like, sometimes one over in T20 cricket could lose you the game or could win you the game. And batters were coming at you. They were going to come hard at you. So that nervousness of, geez, even if I bowl my best ball here, it could go over the fence for six. Like, if I don't nail my Yorker here, it's going to go for six. Whereas in one-day cricket, like, they're not going to come that hard at you. So I could get into my spell, I could get into my rhythm, bowl my best ball. That was fine. If I got hit for four, it was okay. They weren't going to come that hard at me. They've hit four already, so they're probably just going to knock it around for a couple of singles. Whereas in T20 cricket, especially in the power play where I was bowling, it was like they're coming hard at me. It was either they get me or I get them, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it was probably more that than the players that we were playing against or bowling to.
Yeah, it probably changes when you're playing against Chris Lynn and you see him start to sort of open the shoulders a little bit and you realise I got 4 more balls and it's gone for 12 already.
Right. Yeah, and I've always been a critical thinker of the game when I played. Like, may not have said anything, but I thought about, I'd be bowling this guy here, or I'd be having this field here, or, and then when I'd bowl 2 overs in the power play and bowl okay, sometimes the captain would be like, hey, mate, you bowl on the 3rd over. And I'm like, I don't know whether this is the best idea because, for anyone to bowl 3 overs in the power play, you're going to get lined up. Basically, batters are going to get your rhythm or whatever it is, and they're going to try to hit you for 36. And for a spinner to do 3 overs, it's like, geez, you're really testing you're pushing the boundaries here. You're really rolling the dice. So I felt that way, and I still feel that way quite strongly with bowlers and spinners bowling the 5th and 6th over of power plays in T20 cricket. Unless they're going really well or the batting teams, on the ropes, that shouldn't happen. And I felt that way, but probably wasn't confident enough to talk about it or say it in team meetings or to the captain. So I did whatever the captain would say or the coaches would say, because I always try to do what was best for the team. But in my mind, I was like, geez, I don't know whether this is the best idea. I probably affected as well the way I bowled and not just accepting, this probably isn't the best idea or isn't the best tactic, but you know what? If I get hit, then it happens. That's what it is. But if I bowl well, then great. I could actually win the game for the team. Yeah.
Talk about the fact that you're talking about the fact that you're a coach. Let's set up a scenario. Let's say you've won the toss, you bowled first. How are you telling your captain you want to approach the power play? Like if in an ideal world, how are you approaching it from a bowling point of view in terms of which bowlers you're picking or what type of bowlers you're picking and why and when?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand what players that you have and what bowler you have. Like, if you've got some genuine wicket takers, guys that swing the ball and can take your early wickets in the power play, then 100% go hard, go with them. But if you've got some good death bowlers in your team, or a good mix of death bowlers, then I think bowling your finger spinner in the first or second over is important. The first over of the game is probably the easiest over to bowl in the game, in the power play, that is. And then from that over, then you just find, I guess what's working. I don't think anyone should be bowling 2 or 3 overs in the power play, because especially if batters have been batting throughout the power play and are in, because you're going to get lined up. They're going to find your rhythm and they're going to find a way to get you away. But if you've taken 3 or 4 wickets, then there's no issue to keep bowling those bowlers in the power play, because the new batters would have less time to see you. And then I just think your best spinner bowls the 7th over of the game, regardless. 7th and the 9th over your best spinner bowls, regardless of who's in, I think.
How hard is it for a bowler to get that 1 over and be on for that over? Because you talked about the fact that 1 over can be pretty much the game over, or it can be the game won in T20 cricket. But, a lot of guys, can take 1 or 2 overs to sort of get in, hit their rhythm. Like, how difficult is it as a bowler to sort of hit that, that 1 over? You got no time to fuck around. You've just got to hit your spot, and then you got to get off.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, I think. But I think that's in any cricket as well. It's like as you go up through the grades or the higher level you play, starting your spell well is bloody important. Particularly for us spinners, because I see it more in club cricket. Like the spinner that doesn't start well doesn't bowl again for the rest of the game. When if you start well, then you're going to get more overs. So for players, for spinners, it's what does your best ball look like when you start your spell? Is it faster? Just getting the ball in there with some defensive feels so you can get into your rhythm, and then you can start throwing the ball up and trying to get some spin. Everyone's different. For me, it was bowling the ball as fast as I could into the wicket and then finding a way from there to bowl a bit slower. But yeah, I think it's important regardless of what level you play at. It's the higher level you go up, momentum's a big influencer on games and on winning games. So if you start poorly, you can hand the momentum into the opposition team. So it's important for bowlers to start well when they.
You wrote an article for a website called The Player's Voice, which essentially just gets athletes like yourself who come on and for a large part are sharing some pretty raw kind of stuff. And there's one thing in the article that you wrote that really struck me. You said you think the reason why you're treated so nicely by crowds at the Big Bash games is because people see you as someone they can relate to. What do you mean by that?
Potentially because I just felt like when I played Big Bash cricket, I was just another club cricketer. Like I was a guy that, I'm blessed and I'm really lucky to be in the position I am today or have the career I've had. Because from the time from the day I made the under 15 state team was chance. The coach of the under 15 state team was coming to pick his son up from a game I was playing against. I was playing against him, and he saw me bowling and was like, "We need a spinner. We haven't got a spinner in the under 15 state team that we want to pick. We're down to 24. Do you want to come to the last two sessions?" So I went down to the last two sessions and got picked. So I was really lucky to be in that position, and then to play my first game for Victoria. I was lucky because John Holland hurt his shoulder again and took 6 wickets before the game before that against the same team. So they're like, well, left arm spin, we might as well play another left arm spinner. And so I was really lucky to be in those positions, and then played my first Big Bash game because Warnie went back to England for Christmas. So I played my first Big Bash game and went okay in that game too. So been really lucky. Well, I feel like I've been really lucky. So I'm just another club cricketer that got an opportunity, and I'm sure there's heaps of other club cricketers that were probably doing better than me or are better than me that never got the opportunity to train as much as I did or to showcase what they've got.
Can you acknowledge that while you may feel lucky that you were there, that when given the opportunity, especially in the Big Bash, you did make the most of it, and you weren't just sort of there for so long because of the fact that you're a nice guy or you were just lucky and people just kept getting injured? Like you did execute when you needed to, and you did what you needed to, essentially kept getting games.
Yeah, like looking back on it now, I think I had the skills and I was I was good enough to play at that level. But the one thing for me was the mindset thing. I was always felt lucky potentially to be in those positions, which is great. But I see the best players now coming through, especially in the youngsters coming that I'm coaching. The players that I see that are that excel and stay in the game longer are the ones that actually think, you know what, I want to play for Australia, and this is how I'm going to play for Australia. I need to do this, this, and this. Whereas I was probably potentially had the mindset of, how do I get the next game? Instead of actually, how do I play for Australia? And I feel like if I actually had that mindset, I may still be playing, or potentially might have got an opportunity to play some Aussie A stuff potentially if I train with the mindset of wanting to play for Australia.
Talk about the coaching. Where are you sort of coaching now? And I guess how have your experiences sort of shaped the type of coach that you want to be?
So at the moment I'm working at Cricket Tas. I was a coach and talent specialist I'm a coach and talent specialist at the moment working here in Tasmania, but I've been really lucky this last year that we've in the high performance area, we've been a couple of coaches short in the male and female space. So I've been able to coach the second 11 team last year for a few games. I went away with the girls, the female Tigers girls who won their first championship. I was lucky enough to be involved with them for the last 4 weeks of their campaign. So it was awesome to experience for me. And then I went away with the under-19s team as the head coach there in the national championships a few weeks ago. So I've had some really good experiences the last few years coaching, and as a coach now, I think a lot of the experiences I've had some really good coaches. I've had some coaches that potentially weren't as good for me as a player. And my coaching philosophy is, everyone's got some really good skill. It's just making them believe that they're good enough, one, but also having their skill being able to be repeatable and consistent is what's going to make them take them to the next level or play at the level that they want to play at.
Do you think the fact that you are a former player who did play at the highest level helps you as a coach, especially when you're dealing with, I guess, younger kids who sometimes can have that, I guess, the not lack of maturity, but they can kind of look at some people and sort of say, I'm not listening to him. I'm pretty good. What would this guy know? Like, do you think that helps you deal with potential situations like that?
Absolutely. I think it gets you a foot in the door. I think it gets you a step closer for players to listen and trust you. For me, it's as a coach, building trust with your players is really important, and building a relationship with them. I can have all the knowledge in the world, I can have all the experiences in the world, but if I don't have the trust of a playing group or a player, they're not going to listen to what I have to say. I think the saying is like, players don't care what you know until they know that you care, and that's sort of the philosophy as well that I sort of live by as a coach. So it certainly helps my experiences as a player, but I don't think it's the be all and end all as a coach either. Like, I've seen some really good coaches that haven't had those experiences, but they learn really quickly. They ask lots of questions. They build good relationships with players, so they can trust. That players trust them to go to them if they need things or if they just need a bit of reassurance.
So I'm not going to ask you to, as I respect the fact that you're a Cricket Tas employee and Cricket Tas probably report to Cricket Australia, but the Big Bash has sort of regressed in the last few years, and a large number of those reasons are COVID related, the fact we can't have these incredible import players and whatnot. But I guess as someone who has spent a number of years in the Big Bash and is sort of involved in the game, where do you think the Big Bash can sort of go to, I guess, stop that regression and sort of, I guess, find a way to bring the crowds back and bring the viewership back?
I think, talking to the players, some of the players, I think it goes for a little bit long. I understand they're trying to play one game every day, which is great. But there's no reason why they can't double up on some days. I think making it a little bit shorter, play the same amount of games, just have a bit less rest time between games for teams. I think for me, I was really lucky to be a part of the Big Bash when it was at its probably peak. There's from Big Bash 2 to 5 or 6, and I think the reason it was so big and people came to watch and the games was the imports that they had. Looking back on the Hurricanes when I played, we had Sangakkara and Stuart Broad play one year, and we actually struggled. We don't think we made the final. We struggled to win a game basically, but we packed out the stadium. It was 20, Bellerive Oval was, Blundstone Arena was, 20, 21, 22,000 people in there, packed, capacity crowds when they were there. And then the next year we had Tamal Mills and Jofra Archer, who were two, lesser known players, come on board, and we won every game. In fact, we made the final, and we were getting 10,000 people at the games, 12,000 people. We couldn't pack the stadium out. So I think the biggest thing is people want to come and watch big name players or players that they can't normally see, I guess, in a normal year. So the big name players is the biggest one, I think, that could bring the crowds back, but certainly making it a little bit more elusive in regards to, the fixture and tightening it all up. Otherwise, it just feels like it goes for too long.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. let's take a sidestep away from cricket. Is it true that you're arguably the most underrated DJ in Tasmania?
I don't know about that. I've only done a few gigs here and there. I've done, one of my mates, Jake Doran, runs and his fiance now runs a sip and style sort of thing for females to get their hair and makeup done. And I've done a few. Did their opening night and did a few of their nights where they do on a Saturday. I've done a few of those, and then I did a couple of bits for basketball and racing Tas, just for some kids basically that they had a jumping castle and stuff. So I haven't really done any really big gigs yet, but I've really enjoyed DJing, and I love music, always love music. So I'll just get fitted in whenever I can.
Yeah. What was it that made you turn to the decks, I guess? And can you see yourself sort of pushing Cricket Tas to get you down to Bloodstone Arena for
Actually,
a big
funny you
bash
say
set?
that. Actually, I did the music for all WBBL and the BBL games this year.
Oh, there we go.
On the like, they just had a couple of computers where you just basically click the button. I think they can do it a bit of a better setup, a bit like they did it. I think the Thunder did it really well. They had some lady that did basically DJ'd throughout the game. And I went to a couple of Jack Jumpers games, which was amazing, and just music the whole time and consistent. It was really loud. It was a big festival. It was awesome. So I think they could probably do that a little better to make it a bit better atmosphere, I guess, and probably update their music as well, make it a bit more relevant music for the people or the kids coming in to watch the games. But yeah, look, I think I missed out on a couple of opportunities to work with the Hurricanes as a coach because of that, because I was doing the music. So I'd love to do it again, but if I get the opportunity to be out in the field and hit some balls and be around the coaching group, that's probably going to be a bit better from my experience as a coach. Although I love doing the music side of things.
No, that's understandable. Or we'll end on this, no pressure, but what would your DJ name be? Or do you already have one?
I don't have one at the moment, no. People are running with the DJ Rose sort of name.
That works.
I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. So that's sort of that people are starting calling me that, but I haven't got a DJ name yet. So if anyone's got some suggestions, I'm all ears.
Oh, we'll see what we can do. I'm sure we can get something for you. But Clive, thank you very much for coming on. Very insightful chat. Very enjoyable person to talk to, even though we didn't really touch on this, but we went to Cricket Victoria Cedar together, but on different classes. And I'm pretty sure you got me out at one of those like Super 8, Kangaroo 8 days we played in like Albert Park. Like,
yeah, right. Did Glenn Maxwell play that game? Was he in your team?
Yeah, he wasn't. No, I was in the class that had no good cricketers in it. Like, I think the best player we had was a guy named Jared DeMarco who played thirds at Northcote. So, so we didn't have any good cricketers. But I just remember there was saw this ball, and I'm like, this is going down like leg stump, and then all of a sudden it's just those plastic cricket set just went flying, and I was like, shit, that bloke's not bad. And someone told me, yeah, no, he's pretty handy. And I mean, I was a thirds club cricketer, and so I never stood a chance really.
No, it was a good days, the CD days. So I actually really enjoyed those couple of years that I was with them. I was doing the TAFE course there, so it was awesome.
Yeah, no, it was good. A long time ago now, but it was very enjoyable. But mate, thank you very much for coming on, and all the best with your coaching and the DJ Roses.
Yeah, thanks heaps, Chris. Thanks for having me on.